Yeah. Hello. There we go. There's my mic on. How are you, Stephen? Thanks for getting in early with the Father Ted stuff. Excellent stuff. Cool. Welcome along. Oh, thank you, Dave, for the follow. Welcome along, guys. Yeah, welcome in. Oh, happy Sunday. I would normally be... hey, Dan, welcome along. I would normally be sitting here coding away on my project, watching Amiga Bill, but he's not on, so you might as well watch me coding. So, anyways. Oh. But yeah, happy weekend. Although it's nearly over, but it's all good. Hey Cybernight, how are you? Welcome along. Good to see us all. So tonight, I'm going to be looking at. I'm just going to be working on my project, which is called Drawer Helper, and I put a little preview of it in the Tool Jam Discord there a little while ago. But if anyone's not aware of it at this stage, what's it called? Jam. Let's have a look at that. Jam. One sip of wine. There we go. Well, basically, this is a game jam for non-games that Zuper Dan in the chat there is organising, and we've still got a couple of months left to get some Amiga tools in. Now, they don't have to be written in Blitz Basic. I just like writing in Blitz Basic, so that's why I'm doing it that way. But yeah, it's a competition where the object is to create a nice bit of software that you think works and that people need on the Amiga. There are a few different categories. There's tools and utilities, and there's the most useless category, which I think is a great category, and there's a commodities category, and there's a miscellaneous category for things like scripts and stuff that doesn't fit into the other categories. But so I've already done my entry for the most useless category, so that is available to download. But the idea behind the jam is that these all, well, first off, we get some pretty cool tools. New software is never a bad thing, and also to create sort of more source code that people can look at, and so all the entries will be open source, and so available for people to download and have a look at the source code and say, oh, how did you do that, or what why isn't it working, or why isn't it doing the thing I wanted to do, and it creates a nice little exactly. It creates a nice new pool of interesting stuff, whether you're a software user or a developer or just curious. Oh, okay. I thought it was a requirement, but well, all good. A pool. There we go. So, well, yeah. I'm going to open source it. No one's going to touch it because it's Blitz Basic anyway. But yeah. Oh, was the game? What? Yeah, was indeed. Was the game jam? It was a requirement to be open source for the game jam, wasn't it, Dan? Well, yes. The prizes are obviously the main reason for doing it. Have you decided, actually, Dan, which prizes go with which category? Because I see, that's where I'm getting confused. But anyways, you should open source it anyway, because part of it is just to create this extra knowledge and have a bit of fun doing it, and maybe win some prizes. So I don't know how many entries there are so far. I know I've got one entry in, and this is my second entry that I'm working on. I've had to make the window smaller so you can read the text again, so this looks very funny to me. But yeah. So so I don't know how there are some pretty awesome prizes there, actually. If you can check out the itch web page there, that I posted in the chat. You can see the prizes there. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But there are 40 something people signed up for it. I don't know how many will actually, how many entries that will result in. But what do you reckon, Dan? Is it like a fair to say 5-1 or something like that? So maybe you might get 8 or 10 projects out of it. Or maybe more. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. So that's the story. So, like I said, I would just be coding away here. Oh, hi. Minecart, how are you? Welcome in. Yeah, I appreciate that you call them nice. I think they're a bit waffly and rambly, but yeah, that's probably me, I guess. Or are you talking about the 10-15 submission ratio? Okay, I see. Yeah, so do you mean the tutorials on previous Blitz streams, on previous Twitch streams, or because I did a series of tutorials in Amiga Future a few years ago as well, which are now free to download from the Amiga Future website. But anyways, is there a Terrible Fire card as one of the prizes? Oh, that's cool, because Mr. Terrible Fire himself is in the chat there. I'm just gonna have a look at the itch page now and see what the actual prize. What have we got? Well, the Checkmate's the big one. There's Tank Mice, Amiga 12, Pi Storm, Amiga Dual, Omniport, and the Mega Drive to Amiga CD32 controller adapter, and so more merchandise. Yeah, no, I don't see an accelerator there, but there we go. Oh, is there a 630? Where's that listed? Ah, cool. A 536. Sorry. Okay. No, I'm just. I'm only half reading this chat. Sorry. What's going on here? Gareth, hello. Welcome in. Yes, this is what happens. Real life is a bit of a bastard for that. Oh, no TF. Okay, sorry. Okay, now sorted out. The man has spoken. It's like getting a bit confused there. Okay, yes, and also I know Terrible Fire won't go near the 600, so yeah, there you go. Hey, Proton Fig, welcome along. Happy Sunday indeed, and cheers, everyone. Coding and drinking, what could possibly go wrong? But yeah, there you go. So there's some pretty awesome prizes in there, even if there aren't any Terrible Fire accelerators. So cool. Right, so let's. You guys, no one has really seen this source before. I will. Yeah, a Pi Storm 32 would be awesome, actually. They're epic little boards. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. He's too afraid of ruining his childhood dreams of, with his original Amiga. But anyways, yeah. Okay, so here's the source code for my project so far. Well, I'll run the project and let you see what it looks like so far. It's here. It's what is it? What's that? 1,300 lines of code. Oh, there's some extra stuff as well in there, but that's around 1,300 lines of code. It's still early days, but what it looks like is, oh god, this is awful cramped. Get down there. So it looks something like this. If we open a drawer or a folder, that was the wrong one to open. Where are my files? There's files. I have a test drawer here because the idea behind this is to help you manipulate files in Workbench, and I'm a bit wary of it because I haven't tested it enough yet. It's still under development and all that, but. So the basic idea is to give you a little bit of like directory opus functionality in Workbench without actually running directory opus 5 to replace Workbench. So when it's a commodity, so when it's running, it shows up as a commodity in Exchange. That's it there, drawer helper. It has a basic interface, just some preferences there. Oh, that doesn't work yet. That's for this stream. But the main idea is that when you have a window open, you can press F1. And it gives you a little toolbar. And this toolbar here, and you go over to this window, you can press F1, you get a toolbar there as well. So you've got lots of cool gadgets in there. Oh, well, cool gadgets. The usual stuff you might expect from something like this. So you can highlight an icon, or more than one icon, and press like that to get the information windows. You can make it bigger. So you can open a viewer just to see what's in the file. What else? Yeah, and if you try to view a drawer, it will open the drawer for you, and it will also inherit the toolbar for that. You've got the usual stuff. It's got a refresh button because the Amiga doesn't do this automatically. It's got make a new drawer, cancel that. Information, could copy paste files, something that is really nice and it should be in Workbench by default, I would say. So much so that in the past I wrote some AREX scripts and they're there, cut, copy and paste. It's kind of hard to see on that menu. Cut, copy and paste. And what I'm doing is I'm just using the same kind of internal mechanism for these buttons so that they're compatible as well. So so you can run both and you can copy and paste between the two. So you can copy and paste with the menu or with the buttons, and that's all working as far as I can remember. So if we go to test 2 here, we get test files. You love the test files all over the place. And I take this and I can do a cut there, and I go in here and I can paste that there. And I can do that and I can cut it and paste it in here. There we go. Hey, Judge Grooveman, welcome along. Welcome along. It uses a mixture of shenanigans and Workbench 3.5 plus features. So in Workbench 3.5 they introduced a whole load of new, like basically a new API that lets you interact with Workbench and interact with the icons. The you can use it with AREX, and there's also a library that you can access. Now I'm using a combination of both AREX and the library, and also some shenanigans with the internal OS structs in the background to do this. But at the moment, no, you can't open the drawer with the toolbar because there's no access to that API or from the API. So what I would have to do, and I was thinking about adding it as a feature, is you either patch the internal library call that opens the window and see if it's a Workbench window, and then do the business then, and then let the code continue. I've dabbled in that stuff, and it ended up in just a hard crash, badness all the time. So I haven't actually done that. I had a little bit of test code that kind of never worked, so that's fine. So the other way of doing it is to poll Workbench, and that is going to be CPU intensive. So at the moment there isn't much of an overhead. It is adjustable. There is an overhead. It's not huge. Now I'm doing this under emulation, so it's not a big deal. But when you slow it right down to like A1200 speed, it works just fine. But the polling, you can see it does kind of delay, and it tries to spread the any kind of actions that it does in the background over some time. So what it does have to do is each of these little helpers has to poll its parent window to see if it's moved or change size. So that's why there's a bit of a delay there, and also change position, or change depth, like you see. So if we that's a kind of a bug because we can never jump to the back. So okay, so you can see there that it's gone to the back, and the helper window will stay with it, but that only happens because it polls every second or so. You can increase that speed, but increasing that speed increases your overhead. So I probably add a little slider bar in the preferences to adjust that once I get to that point. But for now, it's kind of I think every half a second it does one of the windows. So you might have the delay adds up as you've got more of these little helpers. It's limited to 10 at the moment, but that doesn't matter. It can be changed, and that's all for later on. All that tweaking is for the night before this submission deadline. But yeah, what else do the other buttons do? So it will follow the window around even through the depth. So so it will match the depth and stuff like that. So, but I do want to add the feature at least to that you can enable or disable polling of windows, so that it will pop up when a new window appears. But even getting access to that list means either traversing through the screen's window structs and then filtering it for Workbench windows, or some awful hackery in the back, which I'm just not good enough to do. So we'll see how that goes. But we've also got, you can change it to text mode. That's slightly awkward because the toolbar covers the top little part of the window with text, and you can switch between them. You can also sort the icons by name. What's that? Oh, that's rename. It's hard to see because it's all the programmer graphics, you know. But you can rename the file, and then now this is the cool thing that's directly from Directory Opus is a source and destination. So if you've got a source and destination window, for example, I'll set this one as the source and this one as the destination. I can just click that and I can send a file over there. And then if that one's the destination, it will automatically switch off this window, and you know, and then that one's the destination. Or if you take that one, then obviously you can't have two sources, so they go away. So we change the destination, and we do that, and we can send that to the other window, and it will replace the it will have replaced the file that was there. So that's a copy, and that one's a move. That's why it's kind of got the ghosted outline there. So if that's a test drawer, so we'll just delete that. And then we select the file, and we'll set this one as the destination, and click that. Now automatically, if you try to send a file, it will, from a window that isn't the source, it automatically becomes the source for. That's fairly obvious, but we delete that again, and now we can use this button. Oh no, we choose an icon. Use this button instead. Oh, there we go. Now that should have disappeared from this one, but it hasn't. So I'm not sure what the story is there. Right, so there's a bug. Oh hey, hey, welcome along, and thanks for just sticking your head in there, Amiga Bill's illegitimate son. Nice to see you. Oh. But yeah, so there's a bug that I'll write on my little list here. And what is that there? So it didn't remove the original file. So you can see why I'm only testing it on these test directories, because I can't, you couldn't really use it in anger yet, because you might just copy and paste files into oblivion and they'll be gone. So I don't fully trust it yet. That'll come later with a lot of testing. But yeah, so that is kind of what it does. So, and then these last two buttons here are view and run. So run will just kind of try to run the file. Okay, that should have worked, but I don't know why it didn't. Okay, well there I thought it might have, as if you double clicked on it, but let's try that with an executable file. Where do I find an executable file? Oh, projects. Here, let's go in here. Closer. That's my other project. My other Tool Jam entry is Closer. Let's see if I can run that. So if I click this, I should be able to run the file here with this button. Okay, that's not working either. Right. So run file isn't running executables. Okay, well that's fine. We can work on that. What it will do though is it will show directories. So if you click run, it will switch to the directory and close the previous one. So you don't have a workbench full of windows. So it still opens and closes the windows. It's not strictly browsing in the same window. So we can go into the next folder here, click that, and then you see, so you've still only got the one window open. But what happens when you can do that is you can use the back button, and that can go back. Oh, why is that not working? Is that where I started? I can't remember. But anyways, you can also go up through the directories that way, and it will close the files, or it will close the windows as it goes, so you still only have one window open on that particular chain. Oh yeah, cool, excellent. Well, I hope it helped, and excellent. And yeah, I hope it helped, and I hope it's I hope the project's going well. Javier, can't remember. Welcome along. Welcome along. I am working on my entry for the Blitz Basic Game Jam. So what I'm working on, see this little toolbar that normally Workbench doesn't have? It's kind of got a lot of actions that you can do with the icons. So if we go to, for example, this drawer here, and you click play, it will open the drawer and close the previous one behind it. And then if you press back, it'll go back to the previous one. So there you go. Yeah, that's basically it. It will also inherit the history. It'll inherit the source destination status. And there's a few other functions like being able to cut, copy, and paste files here. You'll have to excuse the terrible graphics. Some of them are like mixed styles and all sorts. I just was throwing graphics together for this. But anyways, there we go. That is the program. And what it will also do is it'll move around, like I already did that, but it will close the helpers, and yeah, so you can still, it'll just close the helper when the parent window goes. It'll go away. So that's it. So we quit this and we can we can go back to the source code. So we found a couple of niggly things there that weren't working right. So let's go and have a look at them. Right, so we have some oh yeah. It's an OS 3.9 install. And I just haven't I never changed the background. Yeah. I have a few different test environments that I use under WinUAE, and I think it's probably makes sense to have the standard backdrop for 3.9, 3.2, and so I kind of know where I am. I don't get mixed up. A bit in your face, isn't it? It's very turn of the century. But anyways, okay, so here we have all our declarations and stuff like that. So what was the first thing we were looking at? So the send file isn't removing the original file. You didn't like that logo? Yeah. It's very important that. Yeah, the actual Amigas that I use, as in my tower, the main ones, and the ones I use like for gaming and stuff like that, they all have different backgrounds. None of them are actual Amiga backgrounds in that. In fact, my main Amiga with the graphics card in it has a screenshot from Elite Dangerous, which is a PC game. So in a roundabout way, it almost looks like a PC. It's almost the opposite. But yeah, okay, so let's go and have a look at our main loop here. What's happening is when we move a file with the directory opus buttons, it doesn't disappear. Copy to, move to, and the explanation for that is because it simply isn't implemented. I also have a 4.1 machine here, and that does have its original background on it as well. But yeah, I did actually change that, but then I installed an update and installed it fresh, and I just never bothered changing it. Sometimes I just not bothered changing things. My Linux desktop has the Linux Mint logo all over it as well, just because couldn't be arsed. But there you go. Right, so yeah, so I just never implemented that. Now, how the icon ended up in the other window, I don't know. But all it does is count the icons that are in the window and not do anything with them. Or, well, the selected icons, and just doesn't do anything with them. So the send to, the copy to looks like this. So so basically we're just going to copy this, but instead of copying the files, we're going to move them. And let me see how we're copying the files. How are we copying the files? So, oh yeah, I have a routine that copies the files. So what I'm going to do is, yeah, so what there are a few different ways of copying files that I've been experimenting with, but what I need to do is the requirements are really that I really need to know that the copy has worked before I delete the original file. Very, very important, because if it hasn't worked because the file already existed or something like that, you don't want to delete the original, because then you're left with no files and it's gone. It's just gone. Like, so can't be having that. So we have to make sure that doesn't happen. I wrote a routine for copying files, but all it does is use sort of the OS commands to do it. So I'm putting it in a routine because later on I want to write a custom file copying routine, and that will allow me to have a cancel button, so you can cancel it, you can have a progress bar and stuff like that, and it'll also let me multi-thread it. Because at the moment you launch this thing and it just sits there and in the background copies a file, and if you're copying big files, that's no good. So yeah, so the aim is that it will be multi-threaded. So what'll happen is it'll spawn a little task to do the copying. You'll be able to cancel that. It'll have a little progress bar in a little window, and in the meantime you can still use the toolbars, because at the moment if you're copying a big file, the toolbar gets stuck, it doesn't get refreshed, and so if you close or move the window, it just stays there in the middle of your workbench, and it's a bit gammy. I think gammy is an Irish word for, or an Irish phrase. Don't know if you have it over here. Yes. Oh, it's also Scottish, is it? Excellent. Absolutely, that's what weekends are for, even if it is a school night. But yeah, that's cool. Gammy is also a Scottish word, because I really associate that with Dublin. Gammy, g with a G, Cammy. But yeah, Cammy is definitely not here. She's about as far away as you can get, I think. Anyways, right. So the thing is with moving files is that there's an easy way of doing it if the files are on the same volume, and that is to rename them. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're basically cousins. Yeah, but so the way you move a file, right? So if you think about it in logical blocks, you move a file by copying the file and then deleting the original, which is fine, and that will work kind of everywhere. But what you can do is you can rename a file, and because a file name just kind of is basically renaming a file in Amiga OS terms, you can use the entire path as part of the file. So what you can do is you can rename the file to the same name but with a different path, and that just moves the file. It's very, very simple. So that is what you can do, but only if it's on the same drive, because the data stays where it is. All you're doing is changing the pointer to the data to a different directory. So it's much quicker, because you're not actually copying any of the file. It stays there, and it's a nice way. It's a nice way of moving files around if you're on the same volume. So the first thing you have to do is detect whether you're on the same volume, and if you are, then it's fair game. You just rename the file from one place to another. If you're not on the same volume, you have to copy first, and then you have to delete the file. So I've already done this for the in the file paste, when you couldn't paste a file. So let's go and have a look at that. So where's paste? And let's have a look at how we do it. Okay, so this is the code. This code here basically just takes a lock on the source and destination folders, directories, drawers, whatever you want, and you can compare them with the same lock function in the OS, and that will return whether they're the exact same folder, the different folders on the same volume, or different volumes. And so you can do your copy based on that. So Obviously, if you cut and paste into the same folder, nothing happens because you're kind of essentially saying, I want to move the file to there and it's the same place. So you copy it there and delete it. You end up where you were. So nothing happens. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to copy that code and make it work further down. I'm going to move the wine out of here before I spill it on my keyboard. All right, copy that. And then where were we? We were down in the main loop. Copy to. I think these should probably be in their own functions, but let's just go with it for now. We can move them later. Siberian, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome along. Yeah, cheers. Welcome in. Kind of have to think for a second of what was going on there. Cool. Thank you for the follow. So let's move all this stuff in a bit. So a file lock basically is kind of it's kind of what it says. Is there a Yes, you're right. There should be a biff a bin emoji. Next stream I'll have a biff a bin emoji. Definitely. I have what do I have actually? It's so long since I've looked at it. What have I got in there? Oh yeah, I've got a Scottish Amiga group one. There we go. There's the actual logo, despite what Stephen Leary says. That's the actual logo. I've got the bouncing boing ball and my Solus logos. Yeah, the old sock logo. Yeah, screw you guys. Yeah. Well, it's embroidered on the t-shirts now, so it'll stay around for a while. We'll have to get some Biffa t-shirts made up. Dear. Okay, so yeah, a file lock is basically like an operating system. What would you call it? Paradigm. Technique, I suppose. It locks a file system object. So if you open a lock, you can choose different lock types like read, exclusive read, and things like that. So what you can do is if you want to modify a file, usually you'll open an exclusive lock, and that means that no other file can modify your file or can read your file. So this is what's important. You know, if you're writing to a file, you don't want anything else writing to it at the same time. So you have to make sure you have an exclusive lock. And what happens is that will fail if the file is already open for editing by another program. And you know, all operating systems will have a similar mechanism somewhere. But you know when you try to open a file and says this document is open for editing by such and such a user in Windows, that's using the same kind of mechanism. It's just access control kind of thing. It saves you, losing a file by stepping on each other's toes. But for this, we don't want to actually lock everyone out of a folder altogether, out of a directory altogether. So we do read access for the path and read access for the, PT string is the destination and, it's the source. It'll have to be the other way around for this because we're sending the file rather than receiving it like a paste does. And then the destination will be a path as well. And both of those are just strings. We have the ampersand here because it's actually a pointer to the string, not the string itself. Because we're dealing with the operating system, we need to deal with pointers and all that fun stuff. In C you'd actually use a pointer, but in this is just literally just a function that returns the address of the variable. It's not quite a pointer, but essentially does the same thing. But yeah, so that is how it is done. Actually, sorry, I'm talking shite there. I think you can do it the same thing in C, or I think you would use the same thing in C for these kind of operating system calls. I think you just pass the address to the string. Someone can correct me there if I'm wrong. But yeah, so anyways, so that's why you've got an ampersand there. But so what we need to do first is we need to determine what our source and destination directories are. So the move to, our source is our current directory, which is, so EW is the event window. Now, so a little word about how the program actually works internally. So each of those little helper toolbars is just a little window. It has it has its own window ID, and they start from 1 and keep going, and that ID stays with the toolbar so long as it's open. So if you close the workbench window, the toolbar goes away, that ID is freed up and it can be used by a different one. Okay, so this is how all the things are referenced. But the IDs are used to determine as an index, basically. So you got a little array that has all the details, stores all the information about where the toolbar is, what directory it is, what's attached to it, you know, all this stuff, the status of it. And that is so that's where we get our paths from. So it stores the path to the workbench folder that you have open, the workbench directory. Okay, so so what we have is, so it won't be that, it'll be, so helpers is an array that stores all the information, and EW is our current helper, because EW is the event window. So once you've clicked on a button or caused an event, that event, the window identifier just is nice and neatly arranged, is the actual ID of the helper window. So that's our index. So we just use that to reference whatever helper it is, and then that helper ID has a field in it, in the struct called, or in the new type called path. I don't know why I had to think there. I've just been talking about the path. Okay, and then the destination is the same thing, but instead of EW, the destination is destwin, I'm nearly sure. So we have to make sure that we have a destination window first. So none of this happens if we don't have a destination window. And that's how we check if we have a destination window, because it'll be 0 if we don't have a destination window. Okay, I'm just going to indent this so I can see what I'm doing. Where's destwin? Okay, so basically if the window ID, and that's why I started the IDs at 1 instead of 0, because it just makes it easy so that you know if an ID isn't used, it's 0, and it works nicely. So basically if destwin is a non-zero value, so you know, if you don't do any kind of comparison, you can do greater than 0 as well, but you don't need to. It's basically what'll happen is if you just do an if statement like that, it'll be true if it's a non-zero value. Okay. Source and destination lock. Okay, so these are our two locks. We are going to, oh, and they have to be long word variables. Have to be, because we're dealing with the OS, and the OS is 32-bit OS, as we're all very fond of pointing out at times. And the result will be a 32-bit word, which is kind of it'll be a lock ID. Now, in theory, it can be any number. In reality, it's probably going to be a low number, but you have to give it the full space just in case. So that's fine. So our current window is EW. We can also put source win in there, and that would work the same, because once you click the source button, it becomes that. No, I don't know One Must Fall 2097. I am Daedalus 2097 because of Wipeout 2097. Rare Amiga version. Ooh. Anyway, there you go. So I don't actually know what One Must Fall 2097 is. I'm gonna have to look that up now. DOS fighting game. Okay. Okay, there's I'll have to check that out because I've never heard of it and it sounds interesting. Well, it's the first time I've ever mentioned it. I get loads of people asking about the dataless part. And loads of people, you know, kind of say, oh, is that from, what was it? What was the game that had it? What? Yeah. That's cool. Is Deus Ex? Yeah, I think it was Deus Ex had a character called Daedalus in it, and then suddenly when that came out, everyone was asking me, "Oh my god, you know, you've named yourself after that character," and all of a sudden on all the IRC channels, I couldn't register my name anymore, and I was like, "Oh," or on IRC servers. So yeah, no, it turned I didn't name it after Deus Ex. It was a combination of a few other things like Greek mythology and Star Trek nerdiness, and well, it's not the same spelling, but there's also a portrait of the artist as a young man by oh my god, what's his name? Irish poet, Irish writer, not Oscar Wilde. Did Ulysses? James Joyce. Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man has a character called Stephen Daedalus in it. Spelled slightly differently, but it's just an unusual name. It's just interesting. Yeah, I'd never heard of it, so it's possible, I suppose, that Psygnosis hadn't heard of it either, or DMA, whoever it was that did Wipeout. It was Psygnosis, wasn't it? Yeah, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, there you go. That's the story. I really, really, really like Wipeout 2097 and the music, which is absolutely banging. And was also like either prototyped or started off on the Amiga before moving on to other equipment. There you go. Well, you know what? I'm going to write it down, and maybe later on, after I'm out of wine, I will try it out and see how excellent or rubbish it is. But there you go. As an aside, the music for Wipeout 2097 is excellent, but the version of Wipeout 2097 for the N64, which obviously was on cartridges instead of the CD, had versions of the Wipeout 2097 music and other awesome music in mod format, or in something akin to mod format, because you couldn't just put the track on the cartridge. So they put the samples in and they tracked it. And you got these songs from Fluke and stuff like that are in track format, and you're like, that's cool. Anyways, there you go. It's great music. Anyways, where were we? Okay, so now we've checked. So we can't do anything if there isn't a destination window to send the files to. So we've checked that the destination window exists, and it has an ID. So we lock the source and destination windows. How do we add a mod to Blitz 3.0? Okay, there are a couple of different libraries. Okay, well let's just have a quick look. Okay, so I'm going to show you here in BlitzLibs. We've got AcidLibs, DefLibs, and others. So AcidLibs are the core libraries. DefLibs are the third-party libraries, and others, don't worry about that. This is kind of support libraries. But in here we've got the tracker lib, and that lets you load a module and play a module and stop module. Now they are that's kind of how you do it, and basically that's it. But as far as I remember, the support is quite limited in it. But the module object, sound tracker and noise tracker module, right? So maybe it doesn't support Pro Tracker modules, but that's an option. You've also got the medlib, which plays Octamed tracks. Similar idea. And you've got the third-party libraries. You've got Ooh, I can't remember. No. There's another one, but in Amiga Blitz, you've also got the PHX track Pro Tracker module, which is excellent. Now, it is slightly funky to get working, but it does work, and that's what I used for Dodgy Rocks and Ouija Nights. So so it works quite well. Let me think. Yeah, so let's go to our library browser, which is down here, and we can look at the different libraries that we have available. So let's have a look and see what it's called. PT Playlib, okay, and you use these commands here to load the modules and play them. Do you know if Medlib supports stereo samples using Octamed? I do not. I cannot answer that because it's not something I've really done. The only one I've actually used in Anger is this Pro Tracker Playlib. That's the only one I've actually used in any serious way. The other ones I've maybe put a test program together and found that it works, and I haven't actually done anything with it, so I haven't looked into it. The tracker library, this is PT Player Lib, is included with Amiga Blitz 3. It's already loaded. You need to add it if you have Blitz 2, and the way to do that is a bit convoluted, but it is doable. So it's not there's an awkward way of doing it, but you need to use the library manager to add it to the deflibs file, save a new deflibs file, then load that into, then basically replace your existing deflibs file with that, keep a backup of your old deflibs file, and when you do that, you should have the commands available. Yeah, well, absolutely, go for it. But a lot of the tracker tool stuff is stuff that has to be done manually. Like when you load the tracker in, you've got some commands like play, stop, this kind of stuff. But that's about it. If you wanted to have more control over it, like being able to access different channels and change parameters and stuff like that, you want to write it from scratch yourself. Now, that's not that big a deal itself, because there are so many different bunches of tracker code out there that people use in games and in stuff, that you could use. But it's kind of involved. It's a project in itself. And there are so many mod players for the Amiga, I'm not really sure we need it. To be honest. But what I like about the this Pro Tracker Player Lib is that it gives you the option to play sound effects. So you can assign some channels that if a sound effect plays, it will interrupt the music to play the sound effect. So so you can use it for you can use it for games where you want sound and music, and certain parts of the music will go missing. So if you've got a small bit of the music that isn't used much or that doesn't have a massive impact on the music, you just override that with the sound effects, and then when the sound effect is finished playing, the mod carries on. And it's a nice way of doing it. It's kind of dynamic. It'll choose a channel that's least used and stuff like that. It works very well. It's not perfect in Blitz anyway. I know people swear by it in C and in assembly, but it's a little bit better than any of the other libraries anyway. But there you go. That is the Pro Tracker Player Lib, and that's by the guy PHX. Phil, I'm gonna say. No, I have no idea what his name is actually. I have Phil in my head. Yeah, this is the Xenon 2, and yeah, that's yeah, something like that. It's quite a smart way of doing it. It is quite good, and you can prioritize channels as well. You can set a channel mask so that it will use this channel before it uses this channel. So you choose the priorities for it. It's quite good. But yeah. Anyways, I'm not doing any sound effects in this program or playing any music. But anyway, there we go. So what we do is we're checking if we get the same lock, Same lock as an OS function, and if you're using Amiga Blitz 3, you can hold down Shift and press Help, and oh, that didn't work. What's happening here? It's supposed to open the autodocs. No. Okay. Let's try it with this one. Instruction browser. That's really weird. I don't know what's happening here. Normally you get the autodocs to open. So I'm just going to see what happens if we press Shift and that. No, something funky is going on here. Why can't I open the help file for these? I'm just going to see what's happening. That's weird. Am I... I don't know what's going on. It's like some qualifier key is pressed. Oh, no. CIA tracker. That was the other one I was trying to think of. Yes. I don't think it does. But that is a good point. Yeah, it's a very clever way. So essentially, you've only got one song loaded. You've got one module loaded, and that contains a bunch of different patterns that are isolated from each other and use the same bank of instruments. Yeah, that's a very clever way of doing things, and you could probably poke around in the brains of the library and do that, but it doesn't have those functions as far as I know. I'm slightly weirded out by this, by not being able to open the help file for this. Why can't I open my help program? And why is help not actually showing me anything? If I go back here and I press Control-Alt help button is working. I don't know what's going on here, but I'm a little bit weirded out because I want to go and look at those things. So I'm going to quit Blitz. I'm going to start again. Let's go in here and press help, and it's working fine. I don't know what's going on there. Anyways, oh no, it's gone too far. So we were on the move to, and so yeah, I was going to show you the same lock, and if you press Shift and help, we get the autodoc page for that function, because it's an OS function rather than a Blitz command. So you can see it returns lock, saying that these are in C. You would just use the header file, and that's what the variable would look like, or that's what the constant would look like. But in Blitz, you have to put a hash symbol before that. So that's why I've got hash lock same volume. Okay, and I've got some debug output just to make sure it's doing the right thing. So we have a destination win. We obviously have a source win because I've just clicked send or move to. Okay, and then but what you have to do is when you open a lock, you have to close that lock again, and you shouldn't hold it for any longer than you need to. So as soon as you find out whether they're the same or not, you unlock those directories, because nothing else can change those directories while you have that lock open. Well, actually, no, sorry, it's not an exclusive lock. No, you know what? I still think you can't change them because you can't get an exclusive lock on it. You can read from the directory, but if you wanted to rename that directory or move the directory in Workbench, it wouldn't work if there's a lock on it. So you need to unlock your locks, but only unlock a lock that you got. Okay, because it's possible that you can't get a lock, because if something else has an exclusive lock on something, you can't open it. So if someone is in the middle of renaming that directory, for example, and you try to get a lock on it, this will fail and you'll get a 0 result. You have to check that. So we check here. If you got a source lock, that's fine. And then at the end of that if block, we unlock that source lock. And the same thing for the destination lock. You have to check if it exists before you do anything with it, because if you don't, it's a null pointer, and running same lock will compare the null address in here. So there are no kind of safety checks when you're dealing with the Amiga OS. You cannot pass a null pointer to something like this. In some cases you can, but it'll usually be in the documentation whether you can or not. In this case, it's doing it again. What happened? Oh, that's really weird. Same lock. There we go. Quit. Working fine. I don't know. I must be clicking something that's causing that. I don't know. Anyways, I am using 3.8. I have found some issues with 3.9. With Blitz 3.9.9 that I'll report to the maintainer now shortly. But yeah, I don't know what the story is here. Anyways, yes, always unlock your locks. But it has to be a valid. Oh no, okay, see this is what I mean. It will actually say whether it has to be a lock or not, you know, whether it has to be valid or not. So, okay, there's no harm in running that either way, but you should check the documentation to make sure you're allowed, because if you pass a 0 pointer to a lot of the OS, it's gonna end in tears. You end up with crashes and stuff like that. So just be very careful of that. Okay, so just, you know, like for just for neatness, I'm putting it in the same if then loop, or if then end block. Okay, so now we know I've set a couple of flags, same dir and same vol, if they're on the same volume, and now we can act on that. And I'm just going to copy the same stuff from the paste routine up here. So okay, so this is reading an actual file in. So that's a temporary file. That's how the cut and paste of files works. It stores a list of the files to copy and paste in a file in the T directory, which is the temp in the T assign. That's like the temp directory on the Amiga, and it's in the RAM disk. If you ever go and look in the RAM disk, you see a hidden folder, a hidden drawer called T. It's for temp, and there's an assign to that, and it's quite cool because it clears itself every time you reset the machine. You know, and it's good for storing temporary files like this, which is just a list of directory names to paste, or file names to paste. Okay, so we're going to take this bit of the routine here. So what we do is we loop. This bit will have to change. So, but we'll loop through. Actually, you know what? We'll copy the whole loop. Copy that. In the main loop. This could probably go in its own routine. I said that already, but what I'll do is I'll move it afterwards. Move to. So we do a while next item icon list. Okay, so we're doing it a slightly different way, but we'll do that anyway. Let's give us some space so we can easily see what bit we're faffing about with. It should probably look more like this, to be honest. Reset list, icon list, while next item. So we've got a list, a dynamic list for this. Between two instances of Amiga Blitz. Well, yeah. Although it does work with the normal, it it should work because as far as I know, it uses the normal clipboard. So if I'm in here and I go and we copy that and we paste there. So Blitz uses that. So just for pig iron, I'm going to open another thing. So let's copy that. Seems to work fine because it uses the system clipboard. That's weird. Now it might be that there's a bug in 3.9.9, but I do have to wonder why you have multiple instances open, because you can just open multiple tabs. You know. So that's this is how I would work. Yeah, the clipboard is kind of a fundamental thing, but it is possible that it's not working. You can check your startup sequence, because usually the clipboard assign is created there. So the clips, if there's a volume called clips, so you can see here, it should be there in here. Where is it? Clips, there you go. And RAM disk clipboards, that has to exist. And if you've, it should be that's created in the startup sequence, so it should be there. But anyways, okay. So move to. So okay, I've lost what I copied there. Now. So when we run this function here, get selected icons, that will return the number of selected icons that are in the current window. And what it will do then is it will also populate the dynamic list with all the names of all the selected icons. So we go back to the start of that list, and then we say while next item, and then we start moving through our items. So we don't need that while. And we'll move all that out there. Don't need the cut, but if same dir, this is an important thing. So if it is the same dir, and we figured that out because the locks are identical, then, and I should just point this out, the reason you do this lock and you don't just compare a path is because of assigns and other things like that. So you could have an assign, it's probably less of a big deal because you're dealing with workbench drawers, but in general, you could have an assign for, like, for example, the C assign and the S assign. They're treated like two different volumes because they're two different assigns. They're both on the workbench volume. They both point to the workbench volume. So you can move things between them. You can rename files between them without having to copy them. So if you compare the paths, it would show that they're two different directories, two different volumes, but they're not actually. Whereas if you use the same lock value, that will tell you if they're actually the same directory or not, regardless of what the volume name or what the root of that path is. So so it takes like assigns into account. That was a bad example actually, but S and Rex are the same thing. You see? So if you have a folder in Rex, let's say Rex example and S example, it's actually the same folder, the same directory. So you don't need to copy and paste, or you don't need to duplicate the file and then delete the original. You can just move it between them. So that's why you use the same lock function, and that will tell you kind of the true nature of what you're actually looking at. Because I love assigns, and I wish other systems have them, and I know you've got like something akin to it in Windows and Linux, but it's not the same. Assigns are really elegant. I love them, and just you know, just how they work. And it's just one of the minor drawbacks of it is it's impossible to tell where it belongs without examining the lock. So you look at the lock, it'll tell you whether the same volume or different, and I've set up my little flags to say that they are. What I should do is no, I just should reset these because they were used earlier. It's entirely possible they could have different values in them, so we don't want it to fall through and tell us that we've got the same lock, even though we don't, because that'll end up with DOS errors and uncopied files and badness. So here we are. Source lock, desk lock. Okay, and then so if it falls at the bottom and the lock it's not on the same volume or isn't the same directory, then both of them should be false, and that's fine. So now we go in here, well, next item, and if it's the same dir, it's fine. If same vol, okay, so what we're doing here is, if it's the same directory, we literally do nothing because you've moved it to the same directory. Now that should never happen in this case because a source can't possibly be a destination, unless there's a terrible bug in my code, which you know we can't rule out. Is it possible to create OS hooks on Amiga? To create OS hooks? What do you mean? Hooks are a thing on the Amiga, if that's what you mean. You can indeed create a hook that intercepts an OS call, and you redirect the code to your program, and then drop it back to where it was. Yeah, that's definitely a thing, and that's used quite a lot. Is that what you mean, or do you mean actually creating your own receiver for a hook? Okay, yeah. So yeah, you can do. The problem is the problem is doing that to the public API is fine because it's documented and you've got there is even a function. There's a function in exec called set function. I'm nearly sure. Let's see. Set function, yeah, and that's literally all what it does. So you give now this is very simplistic, but you have to give it pointers. Yes, exactly. That's it. Now, the problem is that internally, creating windows on Workbench, when Workbench opens a directory, it is an internal thing. So it's an internal function. It's not an actual API function. So what you have to do is you have to find that function in the code and hook into it there. But because it's not a public API, that can move with different versions of Workbench, and you know something else could patch it and pull the rug from under you, and it's bad news. So it's dangerous basically. There are plenty of patches that have done that in the past, and you know when you get like, you know, people have these custom workbenches, and then you know an update comes along or some other patch comes along and the whole thing shits itself. That's because you're accessing these internal functions and stuff like that. Now, it is something I'm looking at doing for this. That's what I want to do. But it's tricky to get it to behave itself. And I haven't succeeded. No, I haven't tried very hard, to be fair. I've basically tried to do a hello world thing and it just sat in its arse instead. So yeah, it'll happen. Or I'll try it, you know. But regarding the public API, the OS is, you could say the OS encourages it because the set function is there that is designed specifically to do that. So it's quite easy. You just send it the address of the function you want to inject into the execution into the sequence, and that's it. It's used quite a lot for you know where I've used it before is, you know, when you open a file requester, and this is a really clever thing and something, you know, that kind of gets really overlooked. It's a really elegant thing. But a file requester on the Amiga, you know what it looks like. Well, not what I wanted to do. This kind of thing. Okay, that has a load of hooks that you can use, as in, you know, they're well documented. You can hook into them, and what it'll do is, it will, every time it reads a file name, it will send you the file name, send your program the file name, and then you can do something to it. You can manipulate it, and you send it back, or not send it back, and that's a really cool thing. There's a way of hooking into that. Excuse me. And some programs do it, and they only show files that the program can open. Now, that is kind of cool in itself, but what is extra cool is you also hook into the data type system, and it means that if a program can open an image file, right, then it will only list the images for which it has a data type. So if you don't have a JPEG data type, JPEGs won't show up. And then if you install a JPEG data type, all of a sudden JPEG files start showing up in the file requester, and your code isn't unaware of this. It's awesome. It's so elegant. It's a beautiful way of doing it, and it's very, very clever, very, very simple, and not many people do it. But it is used for, seeing, as we were talking about it earlier, for the WB pattern prefs. So if you look there, it'll only list pictures for which there's a data type. Don't worry about the extension. Cheers. But yeah, see, it'll only give you files. Look, it doesn't show any of the executables or anything in there. It'll only show you image files for which there's a data type. So if you take away the data type, it doesn't know. Now, what the hook does is, the hook will compare the file header to the existing data types, and it will return the file name or not based on whether it can open the file. And that's cool. Like, you go into these folders look like they're empty because none of them have images in them. And it's a beautiful, it's a very simple way of doing it. It's very, very nice. I like it. I like it a lot. But yeah, there you go. This is the way hooks are used in the OS, and they're used. Well, yeah, but if you notice, first off, the star is for PC, so there's no pattern in some file requesters. No, that's not what I wanted. I wanted that one. If you look at a normal file requester, you can see. Oh, okay, it doesn't have a pattern. Huh. Well, no, you see that this is the thing is, it'll only list in the current directory, but yeah, the file extensions don't really have a meaning on the Amiga. The file extensions are only there for the end user. They're not there for anything else. So, watch this. I'm going to rename that. I'm going to get rid of the file extension. But it's still in the list. You see that? Because it knows it's still an image. It doesn't care about the file name. Let's rename that to .text. Still in the list because it's a file. You see, we can go back to that. Because it knows it's an image by looking at what's actually in the file. Nothing to do with the extension. So the extension doesn't matter at all. And that is the power of OS hooks. And it's very, very cool. It's very clever. It's a lovely thing. Now, there is a way of doing a file, doing a filter, and that's a different way. Like, that's what you mean by I'm trying to think of what might have a filter. Oh, this does. Watch this. So see, you've got a pattern here. That lets you set the filter. So this, gives you options. So this will only list files that are Blitz Basic 2 or Amiga Blitz 2 or Amiga Blitz 3 or ASCII or text. Now you could do that with a hook, but someone's just done it as a filter, so you can actually load in whatever type of file you want. It's a little bit trickier when you deal with text files and stuff like that, obviously. But that's the wild card on the Amiga. Is that so? If you get rid of that, it makes no sense either. But so that's kind of what you're talking about. But yeah, that will mean that files won't show up if they don't have the right extension, and a lot of files don't, because you don't need to on the Amiga. Anyways, there you go. That's a cool tangent, a nerdy tangent that is no, well, Blitz 2 files? No, they don't. And Amiga Blitz 3 only knows them because they're called .bb2. And it does differentiate based on the extension. So yeah, that is a particular program, and it depends on the program, I suppose. But some programs, I suppose, will treat the extension as important, but the operating system itself doesn't. Yeah, you could write a data type that goes and looks for a typical Blitz thing, but basically a Blitz 2 source file, a .bb2 file, is a text file, except the commands are tokenized with a 2-byte binary code or 4-byte binary code. So 2 bytes or 4 bytes? 2 bytes, I think. So basically it looks like a text file, except it's a bit mangled. But the only way, it doesn't have a header or anything like that, so the only way you could know it is by looking for a known thing. And because the 2-byte code is just a library code and a command code, it's difficult, because you can have a source code that doesn't use a particular library or something. You can't look for a particular token. So it doesn't really work that way. Difficult to do without the file extension, to be fair. Amiga Blitz 3 is a .ab3, but that's just plain text, so it works with plain. You could save it as .text and it would work as well. And Amiga Blitz 3 files actually look a bit funky. Let's see, we're a drawer helper. So if we look at the source code here, they just have all these comments at the top, and that is the settings. But that's basically the same stuff that is included in a separate file. Blitz 2 has a separate file called a .extra file. So if you save it a file .ab3 or .bb2, there'll be a .bb2.extra, and that will save all the settings. And these are the compiler settings. You'll recognize a lot of them here. Number of bills 339. Yeah, it's fine. That'll be in the thousands. But you see, it just saves some settings about the actual compiler settings and about the environment that are specific to the program, to the listing. So, but yeah, they're hidden from you once you load it in, but it's still plain text. It's just and if you load it into Blitz 2, they're just comments. So Blitz 2 just recognizes it as comments, so you can interchange the files. Okay, back to what we were doing. What were we doing? Okay, so if same vol, so the files are on the same volume. Oh yeah, no, let's go back a bit. So icon list, while next item, icon list. So these full path and full depths, we don't really need them, or do we? So that's like the source icon. So basically what we're doing here, we're going to cycle through each icon in the icon list, but the icon list gives the full path of the icon, so we don't actually need to calculate it from this, whereas we did with the copy and paste files. So I'm out of wine. It was only half a bottle. Oh well. So we're going to step through this list. We go reset list. That starts us back at the top of the list, and then next item is a function, and that will return true or false based on if there is an item in there. So if we've got no icon selected, nothing will happen because the while will be false. Our next item will be false, so the while won't execute. So for full paths, we don't need that because our source icons are the ones that are selected. Icon list. We might need to do full destination. And there's a cool function, DOS add part. Now I'm using the Amiga Blitz wrap around this, but this is a DOS.library function, and what it does is you give it two strings and it adds them together as if one is the path and one is the file name. Now you think it's kind of silly. You can just you know, concatenate the strings together, but for example, if you have a path that ends in a slash character, you know, because it's the directory, you know, do you add a slash or not? You have to check if there's a slash there already, and then you have to check, because there won't be a slash there if it's a volume name, because or an assign, because that has the colon in front of it instead. So it's not a complicated bit of code, but you can just stick it in a function and you just get your result, and it cleans it up. It does the right thing with the code. It's just a nice little function that's there. And then this is just an Amiga Blitz wrapper around it, because I'm using an Amiga Blitz include, and that just provides a nice friendly interface, a nice friendly wrapper around the OS library interface or API. Okay. So the full destination, we don't need full paths. That's commented out. It looks a bit funky there. When we do that, it'll come back as a comment. So the DOS add part. So we did say helpers EW is our current helper path, and the file name. So we need to get the file name for our file. So what we actually have to do is DOS file part, which is basically the opposite of what I was talking about there. So this takes a full path and it will give you the file name of it. And that's it. You can do an in-string function and calculate it out as well in a couple of lines of code, but it's nice just to have a function there that does it for you. And you know it's kind of, it's been tested and it's part of the OS, and so, you know, it's nice. So so what we do is, oh no, sorry, we actually want to get the current icon name. So that means the file name string is the file name of, just the file name of the currently selected icon. So it's not the whole path, just the file name. And what we do is, so yeah, so that's helpers EW self. So that's helpers. So the destination window path is just a path to that window, and then we add on the file name string, and that should give us our full destination path. Okay, so that should be it. Just for debug output, we'll have a couple of imprints there. I'm getting lazy with the stuff. So this CNIF, that's compiler numeric if debug. This will see if debug is true or false, and if we're in debug mode, it will include this code, and if not, it just won't compile it, and it'll be left out of the final executable. So it's a nice way of doing that, because you don't add any size or any kind of, it doesn't require any extra CPU cycles for when you're running it. But yeah, I just got lazy, and so I haven't bothered putting the compiler tags around this. So yeah, I'll tidy it up before I release it. But anyways, yeah, there we go. So this is just helpers EW. No, that's not what we wanted actually. DOS file part. Icon list. Now, is it backslash name or backslash path? Let's see. This is where this little browser thing comes in very handy. Icon list. If it worked. Why you mock me so? Nope. What did I call it? Oh, don't make me scroll up. Dot. I can't remember the struct that I used for this. That icon I should have known. Name, path, and kind. But I have a horrible feeling I don't use the name field. So let's see. Get selected icons. That's what we want. It's just path. Path is the only thing that's used. So name isn't used. Okay, so where were we? Hey, what is going on? Oh my god. There's something funky going on with Blitz today. Hello, Prince Faze. Welcome in, welcome along. How are you? Hope you're well. Ah, there we go. You're just in time. Some Blitz has been acting funky all evening. Well, let's do that then. We got ourselves a crash. Yeah, something bad has happened there. So let's reboot. Just in time. Just in time. So, anyways, what I'm looking at here is my my Amiga Tool Jam entry, which is a little toolbar for Workbench. I'll show you what it looks like now in a second. Drawer helper. Uh-oh. Oh, now. Oh, now. What's happened here? What has happened here? Drawer helper. The source file has literally disappeared. That is weird. Thankfully, Amiga Blitz 3 makes a backup every time it saves a file, so I still have that. Yeah, obviously killed it while. Yeah, it's what I did was I did the shortcut for save and crashed. So it crashed while saving. Okay, so here's the source code. Yeah, that's a little bit of a while back, but I'm in the middle of faffing a bit with the code, something serious. So what I'll do is I'll show you the last compile that I did. Basically, this is a commodity. Shows up drawer helper here, sits in the background and lets you add a toolbar by pressing F1. So it's kind of vaguely directory opus kind of style, but it lets you take a file and copy it and then paste it and so on and so forth. I'm sure it went in there somewhere. Oh, there it is there. Nope. Sure it did go in there somewhere. Anyways, let's see, drawer helper there. Oh, it probably didn't actually because it's a folder. Okay, but anyways, you get the idea. It's kind of it's a nice little toolbar that gives you clicky buttons for things. That's it. Simple as that. And lets you kind of, you know, navigate using a sort of single window navigation thing, but not, you know, it's that's it. Yeah, so you do get a back button to go through where you were. And that's it. So that's what I'm working on. That's my entry to the Amiga Tool Jam. We'll give that a little shout out. Dan, Super Dan is in the chat there as well. He's running this competition. So, but yeah, that's it. It's not a Blitz Basic specific competition. It's just I'm doing it in Blitz just because I like Blitz, and yeah. Are the icons? What do you mean? Icons? Oh, these guys. That's just a. I'll show you now in a second. What I'm going to do, I'm going to quit Drawer Helper just so that I can run it. That's just a toolbar. Looks something like that. Yes. So that's what the toolbar looks like, and that's defined in like that's just an image. You can replace them, and yes, and I would encourage, if anyone wants to draw me new buttons, please do, and I'll include you in the README because yeah, I know they're programmer art and all that, but they are written, or they are drawn just for the basic 4-color workbench colors. You know, I know I'm running it on a 24-bit screen here, but they're just 4-color using the black, white, gray, and active color, so they'll fit into any kind of workbench setup. It is actually for Workbench 3.5 on, because it uses some functions of Workbench library that just don't exist before that. So it'll work on 3.1.4 and 3.2. Probably work on 4, but there's no point really, because 4 has kind of other functionality built in that kind of does the same thing. Yeah, so it'll work on 3.2 and anything from 3.5 on, but it uses the new Workbench API, which was 3.5, to basically to access the to access the Workbench windows. So it won't work without that. But yeah, the toolbars can be changed. The actual toolbars are defined, and I will eventually add preferences for it. But the toolbars basically just have IDs that are here, and you can see them there. Back parent, these are the toolbar functions, and spacer is 999, and it will be possible at some point to modify them, but at the moment this is what the toolbar looks like. So button 1, button 2, spacer, button 3, button 4, button 5, spacer, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 18, spacer, 13, 14, 15, 16, spacer, 17, 19. So that, if you change those around, you change where the buttons go, and you can change what buttons are available. So it's workbench.library itself. It uses workbench.library functions, like the 3.5 API, which, because 3.1.4 was based on 3.9 Workbench, it inherited all those functions as well. So it uses a mixture of the AREX interface and the actual Workbench library interface, because just some functions just aren't available, and there's a bit of faff with the OS structs, and you know, peeking and poking OS structs as well. So it does funny things in the background. I try to avoid it where I can, but sometimes there's no other way of doing it than, you know, basically open brain surgery on the OS. But that's what the Amiga is about, isn't it? So I do eventually want to patch it so that it will, or want to patch Workbench library so that it can tell when Windows open. So at the moment you have to press a button to attach a toolbar. So you press F1 and it just opens the toolbar on whatever Window's active. But yeah, it would be nicer if you could just set it that it would open with the Workbench window as you open it. So that's an experiment for another day. But so far those experiments have basically killed the OS. So yeah, that's where we are. Okay, so when I started the stream, we have some Dopus style, you know, sort of source destination window, send to and move to, kind of copy to, move to buttons. And the move to button wasn't working, so I'm just implementing that at the moment, and then Blitz chat itself. But we're getting there. So yeah, we had just started fixing this stuff because we don't need the source path, because we actually have that from the icon list. Okay, so we don't need that at all. The full destination, but what we do need is, we need to get the file name. DOS file part. and we look at the currently selected icon list, or our current item in the selected icons list, and we get the path of that. We take just the file name of that, and then we add that to the path. Yes. You know what? If you look at the toolbar, it currently looks like this. And if I wasn't limited to 4 colors, well, it's sort of self-imposed limit, but do you reckon you could come up with a 16 by 16 image of a biffa? Using blue instead of red? Because I'll put it in there. And that'll be the delete symbol then. Oh, does he? Deadly. He has the emoticon, or the emoji, the biffa emoji. I'll have to get one for my stream here. I will sort that out for the next stream. Anyway, yeah. So, what was I saying? Yeah. So we don't need this. So our source file isn't full path anymore. That's our source icon, and our destination icon is full. Okay, that stays the same. So now, if we are trying to move to the same, this should never happen because the code, and I'm after saving that now. So this should never happen because the code shouldn't allow the source and destination directories to be the same, because you can't have more than one Workbench window open to the same directory. But I'll leave it there anyway, just so that it does nothing, just in case, because my code is not infallible. My code is fallible, for those who don't like the double negatives. Okay, so then we know they're not the same directory, so we check if they're on the same volume. And if the files are on the same volume, we can do the neat little trick of renaming the file rather than copying it and deleting the original. So, what we'll do is we just use the OS rename function. That's in .library rename. In Blitz, you put an underscore after it to separate it, to denote that it's a direct library call. And because it's a direct library call, I said this before, we give the address of the strings and not the strings themselves. Because in Blitz, we treat strings as a primitive. So, you know, you can treat them as you would a numeric variable. You don't treat them like a string array like you do in C. But when you're dealing with the OS, you do need to do that. You do need to still pass pointers and still need to do that. So you include the address of the full path. It's actually not the full path. You know what? It would be simpler if we do just assign a full path to that. No, we'll do it properly. So we give it the address of that list item, and we rename that. Oh, where's it gone? We rename that item to that item, and that will move the file. If it doesn't, this will fail. And now we just check if it has an icon. Icon list. So we check if it actually has a .info file associated with it, because we're dealing with Workbench, we don't get any information on whether it has an icon or not. We just have, this is the icon that's selected. There you go. So then we have to check ourselves whether the icon exists, and if it does, we'll do another copy. Or another rename. We just add on .info, and we will rename it to the same thing, just with .info. I appreciate this will change the file name if someone has a .info in capitals or something like that, but this is nonsense. Not worried about that for now. And then we rename it icon full path, icon full dest. So we have to check if that well, actually, you know what, for a rename we don't really need to check. Well, we do, to let the user know, but there's no actual reason for knowing whether it's successful or not. We don't need to know it for what we're doing. It's different if we're moving the file to a different volume, and I'll do that now after this. And now the last thing we do is we just call the what are we doing? We're doing helper ID path. Oh yeah, so we're just going to use the current window. We're going to refresh the current window after that icon has been moved, because I've just realized this is probably going to be a problem. A 5-button database program. Like what do you mean by 5-button database? Well, like creating a program with some buttons in the GUI is pretty easy. I have actually done that in some other streams, and you'll find that on my YouTube. Like button. So this is just give the like create database. Do you mean like an actual SQL database, or just create a file that creates a thing? See, it's too vague a question, and it's too big a question to be to cover as a sort of a by the way, to be honest. It's like creating a GUI is easy, creating a file is easy, creating an entry is easy, saving it to the file is easy. They're all separate things. They're all kind of things that I have covered already in a few streams, but it's just a matter of plumbing it all together. I'm not going to go into it now anyway. But there's like, if you look at what I have here, in this function here, this statement here. Now, it depends on what language you're using as well, but if you're doing it in Blitz, this statement here, from there to there, opens a window with a few buttons. Okay, you can define the buttons whatever way you want. These are defined based on size of the window and a few other things, like basically to make it a bit font sensitive, just in case people have like fat borders on the windows. I know Graham, who isn't here tonight, he usually is, but it's his wedding anniversary apparently. So he's he's off the hook. But he has thick borders on his windows, and that upsets GAD Tools because GAD Tools isn't really dynamically sized. So all these are doing is just doing some calculations on the width of the window and just deciding what's a good size to have the buttons, and it just creates the buttons. There's not a whole lot to it, and you don't need to go into those calculations, but the GT button command just creates a button. And then in the main loop, you act on what happens. So the gadget up. Oh yeah, so no, sorry, this is just a prefs window, so this is even easier. What the hell is going on here? Oh yeah, no, sorry, I see. Okay, yeah. So all we're doing here is we're filtering the commands based on what event has happened. So we've got the close window event and the gadget up event. Close window is when you click on the button up here, and the gadget up is when you let go of a button that you've clicked on. And yeah, so the gadget up event is what you're looking for, and we see it here again. So what we do is we just find out which gadget has been hit. So the gadget hit is GH, and then we do a select GH, which is a switch for the C users amongst you. Case, so back, so I've just assigned a constant to each of these buttons. So back will give it these things. So this is basically what happens when you click on one of the buttons in the toolbar. and then you do what you want to do with it. Like if it's save a file, you just open the file, you write to the file, you close the file. You know, that's basically it. But your question is a bit too open, I think. You know, there are a dozen different ways of doing that, of doing all those things, and you basically just have to figure out what needs to work for you. But that is what you need. Like it's yeah. But yeah, that's how you do it in Blitz. It is going to look similar in most other languages. So that's it. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure on previous streams I've done file access and things like that, so you can read and write files, and that's kind of the backbone of a very simple database. You just save it to a disk as a text file and load it in again and interpret that text file. That's the basics of it. So you'd have to have a look at those. You'd have to look back past them. I think I posted them to the on my GitHub. Hold on a second. Dum bum ba-dum bum bum. There are some various bits of code. There are various bits of code that you might find in there. Some of them I'm nearly sure have saving files and loading files, but yeah, just have a look there. Yeah, and hopefully that'll sort you out. Anyways. So where were we? Yeah, we were trying to get this bit of code here into place. So what we're doing here, we're using AREX to refresh the window, because the simplest way of doing it is just to invoke the refresh, whatever it's called, the window update, the update function, and that's the simplest way of doing it. When we're already in a situation where we have to be using Workbench 3.5 for the library interface, we might as well just use the AREX interface for simple functions like that. There's no equivalent to this in the Workbench library, because the Workbench library is kind of a step back. It doesn't work in terms of the current context, or in terms of the Workbench interface, as in the Workbench GUI. It doesn't really, it's not a one-to-one with the AREX interface. So all I'm doing is sending an AREX message to Workbench saying window, and we give it the path of the window and invoke window.update, which is the menu item. Okay, and then we do that for the destination window as well. So we'll change that to helpers, which is our array of windows that currently have toolbars attached, and we that's the destination window helper and just the path of that path. So I think the best way of doing this is to use that as well, because if the copy takes any length of time and you click on a different button or a different window, different helper, we will get the wrong path here, and that could be bad news. Well, it won't be bad news, it just won't refresh. And I think that was kind of the bug that we saw earlier, where the file showed up after clicking buttons a few times. And it shouldn't have showed up at all because the code wasn't there. But we saw what happened there. So yeah, so source win, I can't remember. Why is that not working? Maybe that's why I crashed before. Maybe there's something funny going on there. Source win, dest win. Oh, sorry. It's scroll right. Source win. It's the full word source win. Source win. Oh, there's a million things that haven't been made for the Amiga that it could do with. You know, lots and lots and lots of stuff. But a lot of it's kind of complicated, fancy stuff, unfortunately. You know, things that come to mind are uninstallers and things like that. Yeah, so there's some hefty stuff. What always goes down well, or what people always ask about, is an editor for, like, a level editor and a shapes editor, tile editor for making games with. So tools for making games, and a lot of people are making games at the moment. That's kind of anything that would make making games easier would be a good thing. Now, definitely, I'll get rid of that. That was just looking up the help file for that. Okay, so let's see. So if success, I think we're okay with that. So if same vol, so that else belongs to the same vol there. So let's just get this lined up the way it should be. Is that lined up? Yeah. Okay, so and there's where you have to be careful about deleting files. Now we've probably got too many of these here, so or not enough. Look at that indent. There's a whole lot of, where's the case? Move to, so this should end at the next case. Oh yeah, so this is all extra code that I copied over. So this code all has to be sorted out. A lot of it isn't necessary. Oh yeah, so this file is copied. So we've already got the copying implemented. So that was over here. So let's get rid of all that. And that. So that brings us back to our end while, which should be in here. Is it? Where's our while? While. I would like automatic kind of nesting indents in this, but oh, no, I've gone too far, of course. Right. It's just here. There's our while there. It is right. That means, astonishingly, we've got the right number of ifs involved. We'll see when the compiler shits itself now in a second. Okay. So it's the same volume, we move it, or else it's different volume. And then we then I can just copy file. Why do I do it that way around and not do it that way? Oh yeah. Because I made my own routine after that. Didn't I? File copy is there somewhere? File copy, yes. Oh, go back to where you were. icon list. So we're copying. So we've got our file name. So that is fine, and then full destination is there. So full destination. So we're copying from our currently selected item list, our currently selected icon list, to the full destination path. You don't set the window sizes when you're using MUI. MUI does that for you. So you just create the window and it will calculate the right size to have the window, and that's how MUI works. So if you want it wider, you just drag it wider. That's it, and that's down to the user. If your window is fixed at a fixed width, it's because one of the gadgets that you put in it isn't a variable width gadget, so it's stuck at the size that it is, and that's it. You can't do anything about that. The way around that is to create a group that has a spacer item in it, and then that spacer will change size instead of your gadget changing size, because your gadget can't change size. So the window will, when you change the size of the window, it will change the size of the spacer to fill in the gap. Yeah, so that's in theory. Well, basically, yeah, you can hard code the width of a gadget in MUI, but it's strongly discouraged. It's like, even in the auto docs, it'll tell you not to do it. So, you only use it in exceptional circumstances, like if you're loading a bitmap and the bitmap has to be displayed at a certain size. It's probably the only reason I can think of to do it. So yeah, so you don't, when you're using MUI, you don't set the gadget sizes, basically. That's it. Or the window sizes. Again, you can like brute force the settings, the window properties, but don't do that. There's no reason to, that I can think of. Again, except displaying a bitmap of a fixed size, But even then, you don't force the window to the size, because if you've got different border widths, as people do, it's going to look funny. So you let the window be its own size, and you fix the bitmap width, and then you display that as your size, and then the window will fit the bitmap. If that makes sense. But yeah, there's no other reason to fix the size of anything in MUI. Don't do it. Okay. So different volume. So because it's different volume, we can't just rename it. We have to actually copy the files across from one volume to the other. So this is what we do. We take the full path, full destination, and we copy it. And then if that's successful, then we check if it has an icon. And that is, yeah. Ugh. And we add an info onto it. Icon full path is equal to I just see a slight optimization here. We have to create the concatenated string anyway, so why do it twice? We can just do it once and just ignore it if it's not relevant. So that's it. And then icon destination path. And the reason I made my own routine is because I want to eventually replace the existing routines with an asynchronous file copy thing that you can cancel, that you can do it that way, and progress bar and the whole lot. So that's all to do now. Okay, so we don't need that there. So that'll copy an icon if it exists, and then we refresh the destination window. Now, this is another thing. Currently, this is refreshing the source and destination windows after each file is moved. Now, if you've got a lot of files and you're on a slow machine, or you're copying like from slow devices or two slow devices, or it's a folder, a drawer full of lots and lots and lots of files, that's probably bad news, because it'll massively slow down the operation overall. So what I want to do eventually is when I pass all this copying stuff off to a separate task, that task will look after refreshing the directories, and it'll do it every 10 seconds or something like that if it's doing a lot, or just do it at the end. Because that's the way it should be. It shouldn't, you know, you'll be creating flickering icons all the time if you've got lots of small files copying and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just, yeah. I'll sort that out another time. Okay. So maybe that is it. Okay, and then if it's successful, if the icon got copied, so the icon will be successful if. So you can see here, I should have explained this earlier. So I'm setting the icon success flag to be 99, which is a non-zero value, which means that Blitz treats it as true. So we check if it exists, so that will return true or false if the actual icon exists. And then we check if we were able to copy it correctly, and that will return true or false based on whether it copied correctly. So now we can check if icon success. Now that means either an icon didn't exist or it did exist and it was copied correctly. Then we check, and only then do we delete the full file. So that means that if the icon didn't copy properly, even if the normal file did, we don't delete it. We don't delete the file at all. We don't delete its icon or the actual file. And then we check if icon successful equals true, which is a specific value, is -1. Then we delete the icon file, but only if it actually did copy the icon and not just, and you know, so this won't get executed if the icon didn't exist, because that'll just give you a DOS error. It tries to delete a file that didn't exist. Okay, and once the file is deleted, then we can refresh the source. The source window. Okay, that should be it. Delete some of this space. Now, let's see if that all worked, because there's a lot of nested stuff there. Oh, no, of course it didn't. Okay, variables, constants, same dir. They should already be defined. Oh no, it's a function, isn't it? That they're in, so they're local variables. Really, I should be defining these at the top of the code, but you can define them in line, and that works. Helper ID. Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. And this is something that I like about Amiga Blitz. That would have been a pretty horrendous bug, because it will always return helper ID 0. And we know earlier that there is no such thing as helper ID 0, because our helper IDs start at 1. So 0 means the helper is inactive, an inactive helper, or whatever, you know, it's just not used. So there could be all sorts of problems if that happened. And in Blitz 2, if you use a new variable name, it just says, okay, you want to use a new variable name. It's like older basics. You don't have to declare it first. So it'll just assume it's a new variable called helper ID, and it'll be 0. Whereas Amiga Blitz has the option of making that a bit stricter, and that's great. And I use it all the time because of reasons like this. So that should be dest_win instead of helper ID, because helper ID is only used in the function that I copied this from, the copy and paste function. Okay, it's compiled. Let's Let's see if it works. Let's get rid of all this crud. Oh, this window, this resolution is so small. Okay, files, where's my test drawer? Okay, so let's call up a toolbar. That's there. Let's call up another toolbar here. Let's delete that. And so this is our destination. Let's try and move the file there. Oh. Menu window. Why did it give a blank window? Okay, it copied the file. It moved the file. It just never refreshed the source window. And it gave an error, and it said it was a null string. Okay, nearly there. Why is that? So that's the... It didn't refresh this one. So menu window. Helpers source win. Source win does exist because that's where the file came from. Also, it shouldn't have deleted. It shouldn't have been a delete that file. So I think it failed up here. Helpers source win path window update. What I'm going to do is going to run that again, but this time we're going to actually look at the debug output, see what's going on. So we're taking this one. That's our destination. This is our source. I know I didn't click the source, but that shouldn't make a difference. So let's send it. Oh. Source destination. I don't know what happened the last time. Now, is it that the destination wasn't set? So if we turn off that, I did set destination. So let's try that again. If we try and send that without clicking source. Yeah. It's just not actually setting the source window automatically. Okay, that is something that I had done for the move, for the copy file routine. See the move to here. I'm sure I did. Copy to. I did, yeah. Look, there it is. We just copy that, and that should be fine. Icon count. I suppose we probably should check if icon count. Because we don't want to copy. We don't even need to risk going through some issues if there are no files selected. So let's go through that and quit and just skip it all. That doesn't line up, does it? And wow. Oh, sorry, it does. It's only a small bit here. Oh no, it would do, yeah. Go all the way down to the while. Okay. So all that code can be indented. There we go. How do you copy the screen and record from there? Yeah, I'm using OBS for this. So I'm working in WinUAE, and OBS is just capturing WinUAE. Okay, so there we go. So we don't do anything if the icon count is 0. So basically that should eliminate some potential problems. And now, so destwin, and we've also got our move to if so this will turn our current window into the source window if we click one of the send buttons, because it only makes sense that way, because if you're trying to send from that, you don't need to explicitly say it's the window, it's the source window, because it's obviously the source window you're clicking on. Let's see if that works now. Well, let's refresh that. Yeah, so we've no file there, file there. If we go like this, this is our destination. Click there and move. There we go. And it also highlighted that this is the source window. Okay, so that's working. Oh, no. Is our file gone? Our file's disappeared. It shouldn't have done anything because source and destination were the same window. What happened there? This is what I'm testing on on a test case. I'm not working with actual files. Yeah, almost. Just a minor detail of disappearing your files. Okay, so this is, for whatever reason, is my test file. Let's move that in there again. So let's see what happened. We're going to make a copy of that. What I'll do is I'm going to delete that. I'll show you. Oh. If you do this and you copy and paste in the same window, it will copy it to the same window. So so that works using the same function that Workbench itself uses. Let's see. So if I'm to send that to no destination, that should not delete that file. Let's see what's happened here. What's happening here? Source file is that. Destination file is just copy. So it's gotten rid of the. Oh dear. I don't know where it's copied it to. It looks like it's copied it somewhere. Because the current directory, when you run a program from Blitz, is the Blitz directory or the executable directory, which is not on the files volume. Interesting. Okay, but why is that happening when there's no destination set? Does it happen? Okay. Copy paste. Does it happen if we copy the file to the destination? See, that's fine. That does nothing. So, I never said that's destination. And if copies it, fine. Okay, let's have a look. So copy to. If source win. Copy and paste the file, the code without actually modifying it, of course. Set destination. No, sorry. Sorry, that was right, because we're still doing the same thing. We're still like copying, but why does this not? If icon count, if dest win, that is actually copying the files. It's just copying them to the exact same directory. Whereas a move didn't work. But why? I'm going to do it step through it with the debugger and see what I can do here. So let's get rid of that there. I've got this file. Let's send it with no destination selected. So if icon count would be true. That's fine. So if destwin, oh, yeah, that end if is supposed to be down past the other end of this. That's what's happened. Okay. See, if destwin, that block includes the whole thing. It would be, but sure, where's the fun in that? Like, okay, so if destwin, so we're going to get rid of our end if there, and we're just going to drop it after the while. Oop. Dun, 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 dun. Now, that should be it. Let's have a look. Let's see, refresh that. We still have our icon here. We have no icon there. So, let's move that. Oh, I forgot about that. Let's just run it again. Our icon did not disappear. And that's what we wanted. It stayed there. It didn't get blasted off into the ether. So, now, set destination. Oh. Oh, that's that. Oh, did that get deselected? There we go. It's working. But that breakpoint is annoying me. Where is it gone? Okay. So now let's see, we should be able to move lots of files from one to the other. That's our destination. Cool. That worked. And refresh. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add hotkeys kind of to this, like, you know, being able to just press delete to delete files and F5 to refresh, because it's like muscle memory at this stage. Unfortunately, much as I hate PC shortcuts, you know, this is this is how it works. Okay, so that worked. Let's put them back. What was that? It was test file as well, wasn't it? So let's make this a source and it's a destination, and that works fine. Excellent, cool, deadly, it works. Oh, I'd like some more wine, but it's, yeah, a bit late on a school night for that. So, what was next in my list? Oh yeah, the run file. Running files doesn't work for some reason. Let's check that out. Running executables. So where's that? Let's find it. Run. Okay, so well, open is the actual, what I've called it. So we go through each icon item. If it's a directory, it opens it. And if it's not a directory, it does sweet FA. So that's why it didn't work, is because I haven't written the code yet. Now, now the issue is we need to run it as a workbench program and not a shell. Like, it's easy to just like execute it with the DOS execute call. Does Workbench have a launch and executable thing, or what's the story with that? Let me see. Where's the library browser? Workbench.library. Workbench control. Info cannot be obtained. System. Yeah. That runs as a workbench thing, does it? I can't call that. Hold on a second. I'm just going to look up the autodocs because maybe I'm missing something there. WB control, yeah. That's kind of what I was looking at there. It's just the full autodocs aren't actually in that for whatever reason. Not sure if system uses icon. Okay, well, for whatever reason, I'm not sure what version system, what library system is in, but it's not in the Blitz setup there. So actually, you know what? It might be part of the Amiga Blitz includes. Let me see. Because it's definitely a wrapper for running DOS run DOS run CLI run WB. What does it do? Okay, so use WB. Okay, we do. Oh. Interesting random mod there. Okay, so open workbench object. Okay, I did see that actually, sorry. Yeah. Well, you know what, I'm just going to run with hey, it's an extremely random shuffle, but sure, there you go. We're getting close to Christmas. It is less than 4 months to Christmas, boys and girls. What's that? 16 or 17 shopping weekends left. You're welcome. Okay, we're just going to try this. Yeah, got there in the end. The Amiga Blitz includes kind of the yeah, it does. It just the autodocs weren't it wasn't showing up. Well, let's see what it says. The autodocs are missing for these functions. Some of the functions are just missing. Oh, I see. It's the A versions, but there isn't a non-A version of that, which is annoying. These ones are all there. Look, it's weird. Anyways, someone has already implemented all the support code that I would need, so I actually don't need to do that at all. I will leave it there just as a little reminder, but I think this function from the include does all I need, and it also tries to open it if there's an earlier version of Workbench. It isn't going to be an earlier version of Workbench because everything depends on it being 3.5 and above. Let's have a look and see. Oh. Yes, you're an array. Okay. So let's make sure this still works. So we can open a drawer. That's fine. We can go back to the previous drawer. Fine. Excellent, that works. Let's go and find us an executable to click on. Let's see. You'll do. Yay, that works. Excellent. Tick. Does that? I'm just saying. Does that release? Oh yeah, and our program's still running, so it hasn't. It's not waiting for it to return or anything like that. Excellent. Tick. Tick. Whoa. So now we fixed the 2 bugs that I discovered at the start of the stream. Now we can get on to stuff I was actually going to do. At 11 o'clock at night. Okay. Yeah, so we're fine with that actually. We'll just leave that. Not a directory, so we try to run it. That should also open files in with data types. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh, shit. What's happened here? Oh, Jesus. Oh yeah, we can panic kill. Let's count that as a crash. Yeah, I think so. You know what? I would happily do this all night and all day tomorrow instead of my day job. All I need is someone to pay me wages for doing this kind of shit. Like, I'd be all over that. Okay. Okay. Don't know what was going on there. Anyways, it's another crash on the crash counter. Run Workbench. Okay, so that should be that done. What was next on my list? Oh yeah, toggle with a hotkey to close. So if we look at this, when we open a little helper window, a helper toolbar, we can't make it go away. So it stays there. You can't open another one on the window. So all you can do is close the actual window to get rid of the toolbar. But I think it might be nice to, when you got the toolbar open, to press F1 again and make it close. And it's very simple to implement. Should be. So how the commodities work in Blitz, well, in general. So I've set a hotkey, and I've set a hotkey ID of 2. This fucking keyboard. It's just a shite keyboard. It's not a cheap keyboard, an expensive bloody keyboard, and key stems just snap. And I'm not a heavy typist. I am generally very easy on my hardware. But there you go. It's a Logitech G512 gaming keyboard. Well, sorry, well, not the key stem, but the part at the back of the key cap is cracked, and it's this really brittle clear plastic. It's because they're backlit keys, and yeah. And this is the thing. This is supposed to be, well, this is a present, to be fair. My brother gave it to me, but that's a £120 keyboard. They've cloned the Cherry key. They've cloned the Cherry switches, and it's the switches are shite. So they are supposed to be cherry switches. They have the cherry stems, the cherry shapes, but I get lots of repeated keys on them, and you have to pour IPA into them to make them work properly. And this is like something I have to do every few months. Like you saw, sometimes when I do a 4, of course I won't do it now. Yeah, sometimes you get multiple 4s. I know. Yeah, I know the one. All right. Yep. And it's definitely a consideration because this hunk of junk is a load of shit. But it's beautiful to type on. That's the thing. If it wasn't so annoying, if it actually worked, it would be fucking great. But because they've got these transparent double shot keycaps, the stem is made for the whatever plastic they use for the transparent part is really brittle, and it just cracks. It crackles to the touch, and so the keys just kind of end up just getting loose and popping off, and you also get the repeating key thing, which is very annoying. Yeah, but see, the switches are shite as well because they're supposed to be cherries, like clones of cherry switches, and they are clones of cherry switches, but they're poor clones because they're shite. So yeah, so that's the end of me buying Logitech stuff, to be honest, because that is a lot of money to pour into something that is such poor quality. So yeah, it's a shame because if it worked, it would be nice. But I did get in touch with them, and they said, yeah, no, tough shit. Tough shit. They said they wouldn't even sell me keycaps for it. You know, because I don't want to buy a whole new set of keycaps to fit to a keyboard that has shitty switches anyway. But, you know, they wouldn't even, like, you know, I first off asked them for under warranty, and then I asked them, do they actually sell matching keycaps? No. It's like, what a bastard. Oh, the Model M is obviously the holy grail. Now, I have this keyboard, because sometimes I lose the rag with this keyboard and I just like, okay, it goes away. I do have this keyboard here, which is a membrane keyboard, but it's a rubber dome membrane keyboard, and it is an IBM. It is, as rubber dome keyboards go, it's one of the nicest I've ever used. And this thing's about 30 years old, and it just works. Still works, and I still use it, and it is not the worst to type on. And yeah, sometimes I just get pissed off with this thing and say, oh fuck it, I have to strip down another switch now to clean it out. Away it goes, and I'll just continue working on the IBM one. But obviously not a Model M or anything. It's not a mechanical keyboard, but it is, like I say, as rubber dome keyboards go, probably the best rubber dome keyboard I've used. And yeah. You bought a Mega ST and monitor just to get the keyboard. That's insane. Oh, I saw that earlier actually. It was, so at least it was a non-working Mega ST, I think. Wasn't that right? But yeah. Anyways, yeah, there's my rant about Logitech keyboards. Well, cool. Keyboards all around. I have too many keyboards here, to be fair. But I have a rubber dome Amiga keyboard, which is also quite nice. Not quite as nice as the IBM one, but it's a hell of a lot nicer than the standard spring Amiga keyboards. Yeah, no, they were utterly unhelpful about it. It's kind of like, yeah, no, tough shit. We've a replacement model that you can buy here, and that was kind of their solution. I was like, nope, that's not happening. I'm not buying a £120 keyboard to replace a £120 keyboard that has shot itself after a year. Not going to happen. So yeah, less than a year. See, the problem was I didn't use it for about a year, and so it was beyond the warranty. But there you go. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So what we do is we set. That's what I was doing. I was scrolling across here with the arrow keys, and the arrow key head popped off. Yeah. There. I have the PCB for one of the Kipper 2K keyboards that I haven't built yet, and I really want to do that for one of my 1200s around the place. But yeah, time and yeah. Oh wow, that's cool. Oh, here's the thing. I have an Atari 800 XL, and that was my first computer. It's over there. It's underneath the thingy. Oh, stuck. There she is, in all her yellow glory. But it's if you know anything about the Atari 800 XLs, you know that there were about 5 different keyboards that they came with, and some of them are better than others. Some of them are quite robust. Some of them are horrible to type on. Some of them are just fall apart when you touch them. So what? That's my own. They are when they're not so yellow. That's my own one from back in the day, from back when I was a kid. And the keyboard is fine. It works. I had repaired it when I was about 10, I think. So there's some dodgy soldering in there, but it works. And it only had to repair it because I took it apart so many times and broke a wire. But the keys, it is horrible to type on. The stems bind in the travels, and it was like that back in the day. But that's just how it worked. But I remember going into school and they had a BBC Micro, and I was like, oh my god, this keyboard is so nice, so good compared to my Atari. But anyways, yeah, I got another Atari 800 XL, and the keyboard is much nicer, and it's so much nicer to type on. It feels much nicer and all that. And I'm like, do I swap out the keyboard and the case, which is less yellowed, with my original machine? Or do I just kind of like build a mongrel machine that is the best of all the parts of both of them? I don't know, you see, because that is my original machine, and every time I kind of say, yeah, obviously you change out the dodgy parts, I kind of feel like, oh, but it won't be my original machine then anymore. And it sounds silly, but that's nostalgia for you, isn't it? But yeah, so I don't know what to do with that. Whether to swap out the keyboard or yeah, I know, and like I'm not really that funny with it, I suppose, when it comes to Amigas and stuff, because none of my Amigas are unmodded. But because that's essentially an unmodded Atari 800 XL, yeah, I feel a bit weird about it. But yeah, all my Amigas have holes cut out of cases, and they're in tower cases. The case for that 1200 got chucked in the bin about 20 years ago. So, that's my main 1200. It's yeah. Oh, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, someday I'll bite the bullet and put it all together in one nice place, in one nice machine and one backup machine with all the dodgy bits. But anyways, right, so what we're doing is we create a hotkey with the commodity thing. So this is a function. So you can tell whether it's able to create a hotkey or not. So you try to create the hotkey, and if you can't create it, it probably means that some other commodity has already used that hotkey. So that's a reason why it would fail. We should probably quit because the program just won't work without that. There, it makes no sense, but we'll deal with that some other time. I might retrobrite it. I don't know if I want to. I like what what. Should I retrobrite it, or should I just swap in a naturally brighter case? I don't know. And then if you're swapping the case, why not just swap in the other motherboard, which is a slightly older motherboard but has all the chips socketed, which is bizarrely desirable on the Atari 800s, because it's easier to troubleshoot and easier to expand. So yeah, I don't know. But anyways, that's that's how you set up a hotkey. So what happens is that triggers a hotkey. That's a fair point, actually. Yeah. That triggers a commodity event for the hotkey. So when we go down to our main loop, down here, we have a commodity event, which is here. Okay, and we store that in the CE variable, and the hotkey hit, which, if the commodity event is a hotkey event, will be stored in here. So first off, we check if this is the section here between there and there. that deals with our commodityness, and there's not a lot to it. So if we choose to kill it with exchange, then we quit. Enable and disable, it doesn't actually do anything at the moment. I just have the variable there so we can use it. Excuse me. If exchange unique, this event happens if you try to run it when it's already running, and that will open it. What that'll do is the original instance will stay running, and when you try to rerun it, that instance will disappear, but it will send an event to the original instance that tells it it's not, someone tried to start it again. So someone tried to take away its uniqueness. And then what happens is it opens the prefs window. So it does have the effect of feeling like you've double clicked it to run the prefs window, but it's actually two separate instances and they just pass a message. So that's fine. And the same thing happens if you choose to show the interface from exchange, and to disappear closes the prefs window as well. That's fine. The hotkey, so basically we're checking if a hotkey actually happened. So -1 is what happens if there's no hotkey pressed. But then we check it and we say, okay, so there was a hotkey event. Let's check it. If it's hotkey 2, we open a new helper window. And then if it's a new helper, we just do some admin around that. But what we want to do is we want to make it disappear. We want to toggle it. So if it already exists, then we want to close that helper. So how we're doing this, we do have a function for closing helper for, let's see, what's it called? Add helper, remove helper, okay? So currently we just check if the new helper actually was created, and that it won't get created if it already exists. So what we have to do is we have to go to the add helper and copy a bit of code from there that checks if it already exists. Oh, we don't even need to do that. We can just do it. Helper open checks if it already exists. So where are our commodity events gone? Helper open. Oh no, it won't, because that's the actual window address. Pointer to the window. What's helper status? I'm sure I did a thing to check if it exists. Oh, I guess I didn't. I suppose it makes sense because we have to start from the drawer name and not from the actual helper ID. So so we do a bit of funkiness here. Well, what we can do is we can actually add it to the add helper function. So we already have a helper open. We can see here. So this is so what it does is it currently moves the helper to the front of its parent window, but I've done that now that it does it every X number of frames anyway, so we don't really need that. Let's see, we can run it, and we can see that if we move another window in front, it will pop to the front anyway, so we don't actually need to call the helper to the front. So that's kind of a redundant function. So what we can do is we can close it at that instead. So let's just do that. So we're going to disable that, and instead we will do remove helper check. Oh, because Blitz doesn't look through code in the right order. So the remove helper function has to go above the new helper function or open helper function, add helper function. So there's remove helper. So we have to cut that out of there. Helper status, where's this is add helper here. And then there we go. So F1 opens it, close it, open, close, open, close, open, close. Excellent, it works. So open a parent window. Yeah, cool. We lose our history if we do that. Okay, that's a given, I suppose, if you're actually closing the helper. Yeah, okay, so that's cool, that works. That's another one to tick off. Toggle with the hotkey. Now, loading and saving preferences. That's the next thing on the list. What time is it? Oh, I should probably finish up soon. But anyways, there we go. The next thing to do, our preferences don't actually do anything at the moment. They just kind of literally just open the window and sits there looking dumb. So we'll add a little bit of functionality to that. Where's our main loop? So our event. So see, when we go into gadget up, we have nothing happens if someone clicks a gadget in the helper window. So gadget. Hey Kiffer, welcome in. How are you? How are you? This is my friend from long ago. This is Chris from well, kind of my hometown in Ireland. And welcome in. I was almost about to go away anyway, but yeah, how are you this evening? Having a nice Sunday? When's the last time you coded on the Amiga? So, oh yeah. I'm just gonna, all right. Have you? Okay, I haven't even been looking at my messages, right? Well, yeah, I will definitely have to check that out for interest as much as anything else. Let's give Kiffer Geo a little shout out there. Does this work? I haven't used it in ages. Because Kiffer's also a streamer and he streams some old oh, what are they called? Old RPGs. And oh dear, that's yeah, RPGs, that's what we call them in Ireland. That's I'll not have a word against that. Yeah, your retro is, it used to be kind of in line, kind of similar era to what I'd be working on. It's a little bit later now. The last one I was looking at is what kind of 2000 era kind of games. Thereabouts, but definitely worth checking out. If you're into the RPGs, the D&D type of stuff. And there's also snack time at about 11 o'clock, which is great. So, what were we doing here? Okay, what were we doing? Oh, lost my train of thought there. And half a bottle of wine in. Yeah. Yeah, especially when you get people over here who say the word R like it's aw. You just bitch about them, will you? Ah, yes. I know I get a lot of shit out about it in work actually, but there are some guys in work who are from the East Coast in Scotland, and their ore isn't that far off the Irish ore, and they say things like spider and stuff like that. It's not definitely not the Ouija type of ore. So yeah, but they get slagons as well, of course. But yeah, that's it. Yeah. But it's funny, you know, sometimes you kind of like just wandering around Twitch, or you get, you know, someone raid someone and then all of a sudden you hear an Irish accent. You're like, whoa, not used to that. Yeah, there you go. So I think we already have our we already read what gadget was hit, do we? We do somewhere else, do we? Okay. GH that was gadget hit. We might as well just do that up at the top. The top of the loop, because just for consistency, let's keep it up here. Gadget hit. Let's put that there. And then we've got, so we can check our gadget hit there and select, and then so cancel, I know, is easy. That's just close prefs, isn't it? Close prefs, close prefs, close prefs. Yeah. Oh, wrong window. Save and use. This is where it gets fun, because for both of these we have to get the current gadget status. So we need another function for actually saving the prefs, because just to make it, just to repeat, or to minimize repeating code. I don't have a preference. No. Now there's some of the Ouija accents that are difficult to. You know, there's the Scottish, or there's the Ouija taxi driver accent. That's tricky. I usually have to ask a couple of times, and then I just say, oh yeah, because I just don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, generally, other than the really, really thick Ouija accent, they're all fine. I'm still only kind of getting the subtleties, and people talk about the Aberdeen accent. I'm like, okay, only if I hear you in the conversation with someone else will I notice the difference. But yeah, there you go. But I'm only 10 years in the country. 10 years, just about. I'll be 10 years in December. And I refuse to take on a Scottish accent myself, so. Yeah, and this whole ore thing, you know, I know I say I refuse to take on the accent, but sometimes you kind of have to for the ore. Like if I have to spell my surname over the phone or something like that, you know, like I say, you know, what's your name? Robert Cranley, and I say, can you spell that? Can you spell the surname? And you're like, right, Cranley. It's like, can you spell it again, please? And they can't process or as when you spell it out when you say it like that. So I have to go Cranley. Yeah. Yeah, well, at least you can spot a Northern Irish accent, because where did my pen go? Because there are a lot of people who, you know, hear me arg. Yeah, but that's it. Cranley. But yeah, there are people who kind of just like, oh yeah, you sound like my friend from Belfast. I'm like, no, I don't. I can guarantee you I don't. But just an Irish accent is an Irish accent. I'm kind of impressed because, okay, yeah, I know, you know, if you're not used to it, but I think there's such a huge difference between a Northern accent and an Era accent that you know, I don't know how you, or at least an Ulster accent, let's say. I don't know how you can mix them up. It'd be like mixing up a Scottish and an English accent, you know. Oh, I suppose there are people who are going to do that. Anyways. Okay, so this should make our prefs window close at least when we click cancel. But when we save and use, we have to gather up the status of the current gadgets and then save them to a file, because both save and use save to a file, but use saves it to a temporary file. In Amiga terms, that's in the RAM disk in env, and if you save it, it goes to env and envarc, and they and so that's kind of what makes it permanent, because envarc is stored on disk. Yes. Oh yeah. Hey, Hot Doggo, welcome along, welcome in, welcome. How did the date go? Was it good? Did you have fun? Okay, so this is how you know Kiffer is from outside the Amiga realm. This is I'll give you a little demonstration, and I'll give a little demonstration for Hot Doggo, who's just come in now. Right. that's true. And it's a she as far as I'm aware. Yeah, so what this is a drawer in Amiga terms is what you would call a folder in Windows and every other operating system, because on the Amiga they look like little filing cabinets. There we go. Or like actual drawers that you pull out. That's the even older version. So a folder is a drawer. And so what happens is, yeah, I know they don't think they don't like it on Linux, but show me a Linux desktop that doesn't use the folder paradigm. It's not a folder, it's a folded piece of cardboard for keeping files in. Yes, exactly. And on all systems it is a directory, let's face it. But here's what it does. If you've got in the shape of a folder, yes, it's a folio. So let's run this, and I'll show you what this looks like. Oh, let's not run it. Let's comment out this code that I've just added that doesn't seem to work. Oh, I know what it is. I have a prefix on that. Oh yeah. Cool. So okay, so you're out for a meal, I take it, and yeah. Cool. Maybe that's a very sensible way of looking at things, is to get home around 11:30 because it's a school night and all that kind of stuff. Because I know I probably should be gone to bed at this stage, but whatever. Okay, so this is what it does. We run it. Don't mind all this debug stuff here. And if we have a drawer open like this, where's my test one? I want to get my test files here. Here we go. So I've got a test drawer here. This is a commodity, and again, this is like an Amiga term. In Windows terms, it'd be like one of these little things that sits down your sys tray, a hidden program that just runs in the background and handles things. So it sits in the background, and when you press F1, it gives you a little toolbar along the window. Toolbar, and then you can use that toolbar to cut, copy and paste files, doing all this sort of stuff. You can, get your information on it. You can, it also has source destination things, so which is kind of a funny concept, really. But let's delete that file there. Let's set this as the destination, and if this is our source lister, we can click on that, and we can just send it to the destination window. Obviously, you can't do it more than once because it already exists there. But yeah, so that's it. And this might look kind of like obvious stuff, but because the Amiga OS is such a different paradigm to like all the other desktops, which are desktops, because it's the desk paradigm. You've got folders on there, you've got files. The Amiga desktop isn't a desktop; it's a workbench, and where you've got tools and projects and drawers, and it's just like an inherited thing. So, but yeah, the Amiga OS never really had these toolbars, and like every other operating system does basically. But yeah, absolutely, we're gonna take over the world. But yeah, so this is kind of a little helper thing that just follows your window around, and it sits there, and you can get rid of it with F1 as well. But yeah, so you can create new directories, yeah, like that, and delete stuff. And yeah, it's basically just a little helper thing. You can put it in text mode, and you can sort things. You can put it back in icon mode. These are basic things. It also, you know, if you select an icon, you can view it. But yeah, that's basically what it does. It's stuff that's taken for granted on other systems, but it's just the way the Amiga was intended for low resolutions and low stuff. Yeah, it kind of works. It's drawing a help bar. Yes, that is the way to answer the question. Yes, it is. Fair enough. Absolutely. But yeah, so I've got some lovely programmer art icons. Anyone wishing to draw more icons, I'll gladly give you a shout out in the README. But yeah, so that's it. Like, cut copy paste of files doesn't even exist on the Amiga as a concept. There are replacement desktops that give it a more kind of a Linuxy feel with the listers and stuff like that. And the toolbars, like Directory Opus 5 is one, and that Directory Opus is actually still on the, you know, still available on the PC. Yeah, and so a lot of people on the Amiga use, like, you know, the old like Commander on DOS, you know, with just 2 panes, and you know, source and destination lists, 2 lists of files. You know, a lot of people use software like that, and some people use Directory Opus 5, which is a complete replacement for the whole desktop. And like I was saying, it gives it a more modern, like you'd expect, a toolbar and cut, copy, paste, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you see, the actual workbench functions are quite, you know, they're quite different. Like, so you don't have cut, copy, paste. You've got copy, and copy duplicates it. So then you drag that to where you want it to go. You see, so that's it. It's more based on kind of just that way of doing things. All menu driven and shortcut driven. But it's just, some people like to have a toolbar, and it's something that occasionally I like as well. Yeah. So but there you go. So that's it. So what's happening at the moment is it's a game jam that isn't a game jam. It's a competition for creating a tool for the Amiga. And so this is my entry that I'm working on. So it's not finished. There's still a way to go on it, but that's it. But it also is something that the Amiga desktop never had, is this kind of, oh, that didn't open. Why did that not open? It has the back button and up a level button, which that's the root of that file system. So that doesn't work. But if we go into the drawer here, we can go back, and that's, yeah, it's still jumping to the previous window, but it's a way of working that the Amiga doesn't have. So it's kind of halfway house between Workbench and Directory Opus 5, Opus 5, and that's it. So it's something that I probably wouldn't use a whole lot, but there are occasions where I've wanted to, and in particular this source destination thing is a nice thing to have, because, you know, oh, we won't do it there. I want, where's my test folder gone? Test drawer. So, you know, you can collect a load of a load of icons, and if you already have that set and you've kind of trying to figure out what you want to send, you know, you pick a couple of different folders, a couple of different icons there. Let's send all them. And there they all go, and then they turn up in the other drawer like that. Tijuana, yes, that sounds like a great idea. I'll get onto Zuperdan, who's running the jam, and get him to sort that right out. But you see, yeah, that's the thing, is I've always liked, I like the way Amiga OS works. but because I know a couple of the background things, I don't have a problem with it, because I know it opens new windows all the time, but you can avoid that anyway by holding down the right Amiga button, and it'll close as it goes. Now you don't get a back button then, but you can, I have to open something that has a list of stuff, you see, so you can go through it by holding down the right Amiga button, and it will close the window behind it. That's, but there are little shortcuts like that I know just from, that not a lot of people seem to know, and I just take it for granted. I'm like, how do you not know that? I was doing a thing a while ago at an Amiga meet. I was doing a presentation, and I dragged a file into a file requester, and everyone was like, what? Because if you have a file requester on the Amiga, let's just say here, so it's in multi-view, right? That's what the Amiga file requester looks like. You can change, so instead of going, let's say I want to go to a different place, like see Ouija Nights there. If I want to go to that directory, I have to go over here, and then I go to Files and Amiga Blitz and Projects, and Ouija Nights is in there somewhere. Ouija Nights, there we go. I can do it that way, or I can drag in the folder, the drawer, the directory, and it switches straight to it. You see, it's already entered it here. And this is something I've taken for granted for like 30 years. And I did this on a projector, and people are like, whoa, 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 go back. What happened here? And it's like, yeah, this is how all systems should work. And the only other one that works like that is Haiku, which is like the open source continuation of BIOS. And you can do that on that as well. And it's like, oh yes, this is speaking my language. Anyways, there we go. That's this little side story. Oh, we're still running. Anyways, but yeah, there we go. So that is my project in a nutshell. It's kind of it does some pretty dirty tricks in the background to kind of latch onto windows like that. It follows them around the place a bit by basically keeping a record of all the OS structures for the windows, and yeah, and it kind of susses out the thickness of the bar and the thickness of the sides, and resizes itself to match the window that you put it in. So you can resize, and it'll slightly glitchy there actually when it draws through a gadget. You have to redraw it, but the minimum specs are OS 3.5. Oh, thank you guys. Thanks. Hope I do too. But well, shall we see? So far there's only a couple of entries. I have an entry in already, which is Closer. Where is that? It's in Projects, Closer. Now there's a category in it. Thank you, Kiffer. You should go and vote. But there are different categories. So this helper thing is going to go into the commodities category. There's also a most useless tool category for the most over-engineered, the most pointless tool. So I've written a little program. No, that's TFE, because that's something else. Closer. And what this does is, it's a program, you run it, it closes the windows for you. So see, you've got loads of windows open here, all of them all over the place here. When you click start, it will figure out which is the closest to it and start closing them. So you click start, and that's what it does. It moves the mouse for you and everything. So what it'll do is, because it's closest to itself, it will always just close itself first. And that's it. So I hope there's a prize for the most stupid program. Let's see how that goes. Yeah, again, if you're still in the chat, Zuperdan, you can get on that. Wooden spoon prize. But anyway, there you go. So I've got 2 entries, and this is my serious one. But yeah, there's some slight glitches with the bar drawing. Earlier on, we had some files disappearing into the ether that I've sorted out, so it's all good. And we sorted out a couple of other bugs. But yeah, so the last thing really is, if you look at the commodities exchange here, the drawer helper, it does have preferences. There's not much in there yet, and they don't actually do anything. Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. Cool. So there is preferences I have to, but yes, exactly. So we have to sort of, but oh, I did. It's a cancel button. I did add that code, so that works. So that's cool. Okay, so the next thing is to actually do something with the preferences and add preferences that make sense. So I did want to. It needs Workbench 3.5 and newer, so that includes 3.9, 3.1.4, and 3.2. Now for Kiffer, that's going to make no sense whatsoever, but there's 3.5, 3.9, the old branches of Workbench, and then they kind of like did a almost reboot of the Workbench updates. And they have a lot of stuff in common, but the numbers don't work. Yeah, the internal numbers do. Internal numbers do. So you need Workbench Library 44 or higher, and that's it. I don't know if it'll work on MorphOS but you don't need it on MorphOS anyway because it has the option of these kind of toolbars, and the same with OS 4. So it's mainly for 3.2, 3.9, which are the most common new versions. Yeah, there's just too much hacking to do to get it to work on one of the other ones. But they introduced a nice API for doing some of the Workbench stuff, dealing with icons and things with Workbench 3.5. So that's why that's the requirement. But yeah, so there you go. That is it. That's how it works. That's how it looks. And so yeah. So basically I need to just deal with the preferences. Oh yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I could do some beta testers. Absolutely cool. Now here is I think I'll leave it there actually, to be honest, because it's late and I have to be up early in the morning because of day job and stuff like that. So let's see who is on, who's streaming, who would go on raid. Were there any questions actually, by the way? Any questions on any of that stuff? We probably haven't got anywhere near the same people who started off tonight, so they've all headed off. But Tonda gives a very warm welcome. Some might say too warm. And then we've got Charlie Farrs doing retro. Thanks very much. Thank you. Yeah, we'll hopefully when it gets finished, it'll be nice and stable and not eat anyone's files, because that's it. Anyways, yeah. So let's quit out of that, and that's fine. Yeah. No. Cheers, Dave. Thanks for coming along. Thank you everyone for coming along. What I'll do is we'll raid Tonda. I like raiding Tonda. Well, or Tonda or Charlie Farr. Let's see what Charlie Farr is playing actually. He is playing Auric Atmos games. We give Charlie a raid, will we? Okay, let's see. Where's my stuff gone? Okay. Okay, well, we'll give that a go. But listen, thanks very much, guys. And surely I will talk to you guys soon. Where's my buttons gone? But yeah, so some nice 8-bit action going on there. And yeah, I'll stream whenever. Right. Bye-bye, and thank you very much, and good night.